Do you remember I told you we're going to have some fun while making these videos? Well, I was serious. And I love this song. That's why I tagged it in the base of the one prior. Because sometimes you go along and you got to say, well, how did I get here? Oh, God help us.
You may find yourself living in a shotgun shack, and you may find yourself in another part of the world, and you may find yourself behind the wheel of a large automobile, and you may find yourself in a beautiful house with a beautiful wife, and you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
Yeah, so that really does my heart a lot of good. And if you've been watching these videos, you know I've been having a very tumultuous time in my heart, and quite honestly, I deserve a little bit of fun like that. Okay, so where did we leave off? Dr. Layton says you've been making decisions based on the teenager in you, and I was like, what? What are you talking about? Can't be doing that. Gotta stop. So, let's go back about 12 years. It was 2011. And my son and his dad, we had parted company for several months, and I was living in a condo by myself with my little boy, and I had a little girl at the same time too. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Was I going to go back with him? It was tumultuous. Or was I going to go into something else? And I didn't know. And so anyways, the mate, today's mate, he ended up coming into my life at that time. And we both taught Bikram yoga, although we never really taught a class together. I always felt some kind of chemistry for the guy. I loved looking at him. He's very easy on the eyes. It's nothing you don't want to look at, trust me. And I remember seeing him with the girlfriend that he had at the time, and I was like, man, like, she is just not big enough for you. Like, she's a totally powerful woman on her own. Don't misunderstand me. But I can remember looking at them together as a couple and going, something is funky here. Like, I don't know what it is, but something is funky here. And when I would look at them, even as I'm talking about it, like, I can see it in my mind's eye, he was just like this massively big aura around him, and her kind of not so much. And that's what I remember thinking, like, she's not big enough for you. Anyways, he had come over to my house one time because he was sharing dirt with me, which was totally awesome. This super high nutrient black, somebody else will have to tell you all the rest of it, but this black dirt, and we were like mixing it with herbs and coconut butter and honey, and God, it tasted so good. And we were just talking about some things and other healing modality types of things, and just kind of feeling each other out. And I remember my mom really liked him. She met him once, and she was like, oh, that, and I was like, oh my God, my mom likes him. I should probably be afraid. And and so it does make me happy to remember. It's weird how love does that to you, no matter how mad and angry and hurt you are, it can do your heart good to remember. So that was then, and we did almost start dating. There was a night he was supposed to call me to let me know when we were all going to meet up from the yoga school, and he never did. And I remembered being home that night, and we had just been down to see Bikram in Lauderdale or Miami, and he later tells me now that he was wanting to love and connect with me then, and but I was in a whole different type of space. I had a lot of things going on, and so didn't. 12 years ago, supposed to call me, tell me what's getting together, and never did that night. And I remember sitting there on my couch and thinking to myself, well, there you go. He didn't call, and it's probably just as well. I didn't really feel like going out that night anyways. I wasn't one for hanging out with a bunch of people. But then the next morning, I talked to a girlfriend, and she tells me, she's like, yeah, well, I stayed with him at his house last night, or at his place or whatever. And I was like, oh, you son of a bitch. Like, you didn't call me, and you instead, you're just, and I was like, well, if you're just going to be like a dog like that, like, it's just as well you don't have anything to do with me in my life. And so that was then, and I ended up going back to my son's dad and stayed there for a couple more years until I was like, no, this is absolutely crazy. And it was really actually probably only about 1 year, and got out of all that and went on with my life. And the mate, I would see him every now and again at the yoga studio and not think much of it, other than just observing him as another teacher and a practitioner, because that's what yoga teachers do. And and thinking, wow, he's got like things going on inside of him, which we all do, right? We all do. So that was 12 years ago of a close encounter. And then this year, around February and January, my hair was getting like so gray. It was like I was losing all my hair color, and I was kind of pissed about it. And I talked with a girlfriend who told me about these hospice people that she had cared for, and they started taking these super minerals, and all their hair color came back. And I was like, well, I'm down with that. And my mom always told me blackstrap molasses. And then I had another yoga teacher tell me, she's like, black seed oil. Of course, I didn't do any of those things at that when they told me, but then now I'm like desperate now, so I go get myself some black seed oil, some blackstrap molasses. While I'm at the health food store, I'm getting some black earth minerals. I can't remember what it's called, zeolite, and shalinga, I think is how you say it. Turns out it's actually supposed to be like bat poop, but anyways, it's totally black. And so I've like filled my traveling apothecary, as my friend calls it, with black stuff, because I'm like, dude, I'm getting my hair color back. And well, every morning while I would be taking these black things, I would be remembering my mate, and because he was my first introduction to that black dirt, And I was like, yeah, he's the first person to teach me about this kind of stuff, yada. And that was just a passing thought, like that was all. But I did think of him consistently for probably a couple of weeks, and not really. I mean, I knew I was having thoughts of him, but it wasn't like, I also knew why, because taking the minerals. So that's like January, February, 1st of March. And then, I have it right here, March 25th. I like my calendars. I'm a tongue-tapping time talker. That's a nickname he gave me. March 25th, I get a text message from him that says, hey, I was just talking with that girl that he had slept with that night 12 years before. I was just talking with her, and we were talking about you. And I was, can you imagine? You know what I mean? Can you imagine? So I was like, yeah, well, I'm not surprised to be hearing from you. I started taking all this black earth stuff for my body. And I just laughed at the text message, and because they were talking about what a good mom I was. And most anybody who knows me or knows my kids would say that I'm a good mom. I'm not the best mom. I do love my children desperately. But my brother, he says that I'm a natural born mother. I'm kind of like that. So anyways, so he and the chick are talking about what a good mom I am, and I responded to him. I said, I think you might have just warmed my stone cold heart. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I need to back up just a little bit, if you can let me. So that was on March the 25th. I'm actually looking at my calendar that's here on the floor. Somewhere around March the 9th, I think it actually was. Um, around then, I was camping one night and I was like, you know, God, I think I'm kind of tired of being alone. I had had a couple of other occurrences that kind of made me think to myself, like, you know, maybe I really do want to mate. Like, it's been a long time, and I don't know. I've spent a long time alone. And remember from the video prior, I had that voice ask me, can you be happy alone? Well, don't you know, when it asked me if I could be happy alone, the first thing I did was go get a boyfriend. And then I had a couple of kids and all that, so I wasn't spending all that time alone, but I really did for about 8 years, 8 or 10 years. And and then I'm camping and I'm like, well, maybe I don't really want to be alone anymore. And I was like, oh God, but that means like dating apps and all this kind of crap, and I don't know, like, if I'm gonna get it, I want you to just give it to me, basically. I don't really want to have to do a whole lot for this. So, which is funny. So I'm thinking that, and I'm aware that I'm thinking that. It's so important to be aware of the thoughts that you're having. Uh, and then a couple of weeks later, my mate texts me, and I was looking at it. So that was March the 25th, and then we start talking on the phone around the 1st of April, and I can hear in his voice like the dude is in a rough place. Like, some of you might be listening to me going, this chick is in a rough place right now, man. Like, that's what it is. But so I'm listening to him, and I'm like, no, he really is in a rough kind of place. And we had a lot of similar types of things have had kind of happened to us over the previous 5 or 6 years. And I want to say in that, he did always keep keep a little bit of connection with me on Telegram over those years from when he had left town. And I'd get a couple of them, and I'd be like, whatever. And some of it seemed like it was automated, and so that didn't matter. And then even I do remember one particular conversation with him. I can't find it in there anymore. And I was like, I'm not into what this guy's into. So, just throwing that out there. Connections. So, on the 5th of April, I was attending a group that night, a community group, and we were cleaning up the kitchen afterwards. And the man of the house puts on this like 80s rock music type of thing. It was like Fleetwood Mac and The Who, maybe a little bit of Crosby, Stills and Nash. I can't really remember the names of any of the other artists right now. Bob Seger, Kansas. I say I can't remember, and then obviously I do. But I really remember the Fleetwood Mac. And I'm washing dishes, and I'm like, dang, like, this is making me feel all kinds of stuff inside that I had really not been feeling before. Or not before, but just not in a long time. And so, first person I tried to call was this dear friend and old lover of mine that I had last seen like a year ago. So we still see and talk to each other every now and again. It's really more like talk every now and again, not see. Even though I had seen him a couple of months before. But he's never available, which is why we just could never get it together. He totally unavailable, physically, emotionally. Well, only if I was in desperate, dire times could he be available emotionally. But so, anyways, at first I tried to call him because prior to all of this current drama, I had realized that it had kind of set in my heart, like, I could just as well be married to him at this age and at this time period, and after all the different conversations and ups and downs that we've been through over however many years, 12 or so. Not 12. 8, 10, something like that. I love him. We share that connection. And don't you know, he wasn't available. So, um, and then my mate, he called me, and or he had been texting, and I went ahead and I called him back, and we were talking, and it made for a really, really good conversation. And I remember there was good clarity in the communication between us, and that's the night that he nicknamed me Crystal Clear, because um, Bikram, my boss, he would always say, is that clear? Do you understand? Is that clear? Like crystal, is that clear? And and I like that. And so so we have this phone conversation that leaves me as crystal clear, and it's good. And I'm like, now I want to talk to him more. Like whatever vibe I was hearing from him a couple of weeks before, I was like, I don't know, like this guy's got some problems. Like I can be a friend and I can hold space and I can do all that kinds of stuff, but I don't know if I should be doing anything else. And so till that night. And that was on the 5th of April. And I was reading in our text messages, which I downloaded and printed. You know what? There is this fabulous app that's available that I think is called Legal Text, where if you ever need to like print up a bunch of text messages for court or something like that, or saving whatever, you can do it. And it's like $3, and that's what I did, because as I told you before, we talked about like blockchaining this whole relationship and maybe even making a YouTube channel. It's just that right now I'm doing it by myself, and I might continue that way forever. But I was looking in those back in our text messages, and even some of the very first ones. Got to put my glasses on so I can actually see this, and then we're going to cut this video short. Okay, I gave you the dates. April the 5th, right? We are talking about April the 5th. We have that great conversation on the phone. And so then we're talking back and forth about when we're going to actually get together and meet. Hang on. I got to get there. Hang on. Oh, that's April the 6th. April the 6th. Hang on. Oh, well, we're talking about how much we enjoyed talking to each other the night before, and that was good. And where is this? But I told him on April the 6th, honestly, I think I'm too much of a Pentecostal for you. So we will see what comes. And then I just found it. Maybe it's on the 7th. Easter was coming up. I had to work. I'm sorry that I messed this up and you're so patient to be dealing along with me. Oh, pretty full moon. I'm looking in the text messages at the same time. There's a bazillion text messages. But I'm getting to the one. But we're talking about getting together, when to see each other. Sorry. I really want to do this because this is like my first practice on doing this and going through with the text messages, and next time I will not screw it up so much. We're talking about when we're going to get together. Come on. You know, I could pause the video, I suppose, and then come back. That's what I'm going to do. Hang on. I can do this. This is how bad I want to be. I'm looking through these messages, right? And telling him that because he's like, hey, what are you doing nowadays? I'm like, oh, I'm a nurse, and these things. And he says, oh wow, I went out with a nurse who was in charge of an ICU floor. She basically had PTSD. And I was like, well, yeah, nursing can do that to you, that's for sure. And the reason I'm laughing about it is because I think that's the former girlfriend that he's gone back to now. And so here's a pattern that's going on while I'm looking for these other text messages, or this message that really points to what was happening. is that the guy had been dating a nurse, and he got rid of that nurse, and then he came and got himself another nurse. Um, what's up with that, right? Like, what's up with that people do that? Uh, Here it is. So, we'd been talking. I'm pausing it again. I can't stand to do this to you. Sorry. Okay, I got it. So, that April the 5th was Wednesday, and that first day was telling me that he was off on Monday, the day after Easter, and this is before community group, and and because I guess I wasn't able to just give him a whole bunch of attention, right? Because we were getting ready to have the group meeting. Sends me a bunch of little text messages, and I'm going to come back to it. But he tells me even then, because I didn't say anything about Monday in my text messaging back to him. So I take it not interested to meet on Monday after Easter. The reason I'm pointing this out is that this man constantly, and I didn't even realize it until today, but was constantly like, well, you don't want to be with me. Oh, you don't want to, if you don't want to have a relationship with me. It was constantly like saying no. And I didn't know, maybe I was being baited. Now, truth, I definitely had some reservations, and maybe he was just emoting it, like you can feel that vibe that's going on between people. Of like, well, she's not really into me kind of thing. Um, but, uh, but yeah, right? So, and I'm remembering now even more. We must have been talking on the phone before that, because I can remember talking to him while I was camping. I did a lot of camping for a while, and him talking about how there was this push pull between us, and that must have been what we'd been doing from March the 25th until April the 5th. And and so that's what he said. So you're not interested to meet on Monday after Easter. And I told him a couple minutes later, like, no, I'm okay to meet on Monday after Easter. I just, I got to work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But this is some insight into who Gwen really is. Truth is truth, though, and it lasts through all the ages, including this one. We will get what we think about, whether we like it or not, both individually and collectively. How amazing is that? God, sometimes it's so hard. It's so hard. Sometimes it's so hard, and then it gets like this, and I just, like, I gotta relax and have fun with it, because we get what we think and feel about, whether we like it or not. So you gotta pay some heed there, huh? And that is totally enough for this video, because I'm like 8 minutes over what I wanted to do. But we're gonna get more. I gotta do this. Thanks.